What's good, boys, and welcome back to another recap. In today's video, we're breaking down NFL Week 3, and let me tell you, this week had some absolutely pivotal matchups. So, without further ado, let's jump into the action, starting off with the Rams and Niners. Let's go. The 49ers are now 1-2, and they've been battling injuries all season. They were close to holding on, but in the final 2 minutes, Jake Moody missed that 55-yard field goal, and then the defense just absolutely fell apart at the end, allowing the Rams to come back and steal the win. Matt Stafford threw for 221 yards and 1 touchdown without both of his top options, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. But Kyron Williams was able to get going and add a couple touchdowns to help the squad out. For the 49ers, Juwan Jennings had an absolute crazy game. And yes, I did pick him up in free agency for fantasy, so let's go. Buddy caught 11 passes for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had damn near 50 points on my fantasy squad. Let's go. I'm sorry. With stars like Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle sitting out, this was the perfect game for Juwan Jennings to show out. San Francisco's defense is a big concern as of right now. They allowed 400 yards to the Vikings in Week 1, and then they gave up 10 points in the final 10 minutes against the Rams. The defense is going to need to step up, especially with these offensive keys missing. Man, I don't want to do it, but man, on to the Cowboys. This is going to be a trend when we get to the Cowboys because I don't even know where the hell to start. The Baltimore Ravens absolutely demolished the Cowboys in getting their first win of the season. I know it may look close when you look at the final score, 28-25, but it just really wasn't. Lamar Jackson was efficient and smart throughout the whole game, completing 12 of 15 passes for 182 yards. But it was really Derrick Henry and the Ravens' run offense that kept the ball rolling. They racked up 274 yards against the Cowboys defense that is right now in just absolute shambles. Derrick Henry ran for 151 himself with 2 touchdowns. This is the type of performance that Baltimore has been yearning for when they signed Derrick Henry. And if you go look at my group chat text, on Thursday I said, hey, I would bet all my money in the world that Derrick Henry goes over 65 yards rushing. Now on the flip side, Dallas is 1-2, and Dak says, which I'm legitimately thinking about doing now, but their defense gave up 450 yards. Mike Zimmer has to figure something out because the Cowboys don't have an elite offense to bail them out, especially after doing nothing in the offseason. Man, let's go check out the Vikings, who are balling this year. Biggest shocker thus far in the year have got to be the Vikings. They dominated the Texans to stay unbeaten 3-0. And another thing is Houston's fallen to 2-1 after barely surviving both their first 2 games. Are they as good as we think? I know CJ Stroud is that dude, but is the rest? And Sam Darnold is looking like the real deal in Kevin O'Connell's system. He threw for 4 touchdowns, finding Justin Jefferson 6 times for 81 yards and a score. And on defense, Brian Flores is known for his crazy defensive schemes that put the pressure on the quarterback. And in this game, they sacked CJ Stroud 4 times, picking him off twice. For the Texans, Tank Dell continues to be absent. He's only caught 9 catches for 100 yards through 3 games this year. A big drop-off after a rookie season. I'm going to just say this, though. If I could have any quarterback in the NFL, CJ Stroud, you come with me. Come on. Come to the Cowboys. Oh. Moving on to the Chargers and the Steelers. The Steelers moved to 3-0, beating a Chargers team that's been ravaged by injuries. Justin Fields had another efficient game, completing 25 of 32 passes for 250 yards and 1 touchdown. I know Bears fans are mad. The Chargers, now 2-1, lost Joey Bosa and Justin Herbert to injuries in the third quarter. J.K. Dobbins, who was leading the league in rushing, only managed 44 yards on 15 carries. And for Pittsburgh, Calvin Austin III had a breakout game, catching 4 passes for 100 yards, including a 55-yard touchdown. Where's George Pickens? I'm just saying, that dude is different. He needs to be catching all the looks. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Mike McDaniel, going into a game with Skylar Thompson as your starting quarterback. How? How is this stuff possible? I thought you was this guy up here, but I could be wrong. Man, Seahawks beat the Dolphins 24-3 and remain perfect 3-0 after completely shutting down the Dolphins. Seattle's defense got 6 sacks, with 2 coming from Derek Hall. The Seahawks' front defensive line completely collapsed Miami's offensive unit, and the Dolphins couldn't get anything going offensively from jump. What makes matters worse is what I alluded to at the beginning. Miami's backup quarter situation is an absolute disaster. It's surprising that they didn't try to reach out to quarterbacks like Joe Flacco or somebody else knowing to his injury. And shout out to Geno Smith, dog. Shout out Geno, balling this year. To the Lions. Man, I am a Dan Campbell fan. I mean, ever since he played in the league, but even as a coach, I've almost even come to like him more. And with them bouncing back after last week's collapse against the Buccaneers, this was a crucial win for the Lions and their team. One thing they have to do more of is running the ball. Detroit's ground game was the key in today's game, with David Montgomery rushing for 106 yards and part of the Lions' 188-yard rushing attack. And let's not forget about the sick play by the Lions. You come up with stuff like this hook and ladder shit, yeah, we can watch that. We can mess with that. As for Arizona, they fall to 1-2. I like where the core of this team is, though. Kyler Murray is finding Marvin Harrison. James Conner looks good. And the backup running back, Trey Benson, looks like a powerhouse. Well, despite the loss, they've been competitive in every game they've played and even dominated the Rams last week. Onto the Eagles. In a low-scoring affair, the Eagles really pulled off a gritty win. This score was 3-0 going into the fourth quarter. So you want to talk about a boring game? This was the epitome of a boring game. But then the Eagles scored 15 points in the fourth quarter to the Saints 9. Jalen Hurts threw for 311 yards, but it was that boy, Saquon Barkley, who stole the show. He rushed for 147 yards and 2 tutties. Now, I'm watching Red Zone, so I was so damn excited when I look over and I see Saquon finally getting some offense into this game. The Saints' offense were held to just 219 yards, and Derek Carr couldn't find rhythm all game. I didn't see him dancing this week like I did last week at AT&T Stadium. I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? You come into my stadium, you're going to do some stuff like that, I got to call you out. Derek. On to the Packers. To win another game without Jordan Love, this time beating the Titans 30-14, that's huge to win 2 games with your backup quarterback. Green Bay rushed for 188 yards led by Josh Jacobs. But I'll say this, Malik Willis looked good out there. He was super efficient. This is a huge improvement from his first 2 seasons in Tennessee where he struggled mightily. And that was another thing. It took me about half the game to realize, I was like, oh wait, he played at Tennessee last year, so you know down low in that heart, but he wanted this game. So shout out to Malik Willis. Good game, bro. But the Titans offense is a fucking disaster. Will Levis. I'm not going to go any more into it, but actually, look at these pictures. 1, 2, 3. All right, I'm done. Oh, man, the Broncos and the Bucks. This game, I had a 5-team parlay, and they were the only one who didn't hit. So now you know. But that's crazy. The NFL is so crazy to me because what were the Bucks doing? Last week, I saw reports that the Steelers players said that it was the funnest game they've ever played, knowing Bo Nix could not push the ball down the field. If the team before me is saying this, like, I'm getting kind of excited, right? I don't know. The Broncos absolutely shocked the Buccaneers to get their first win of the season. They beat them 26-7. Bo Nix catches his first dub and is feeling great, which he should. He threw for 216 yards, and he led Denver's offense on 3 of their 4 scoring possessions. And for the Bucks, Baker Mayfield looked like 3 years ago Baker Mayfield. He threw an early interception that really set the tone for the entire game, and he could never get back on track. On top of that, Mike Evans only had 2 catches for 20 yards, but only had 3 targets. We must get his targets up if we want to start pushing the ball downfield. So you mean to tell me all the Panthers needed was the red rocket? Man, Carolina got a massive win this weekend, just absolutely crushing the Raiders 36-22. And I got to say, I did not see that coming. I mean, Andy Dalton looked vintage Joe Montana, throwing for 320 yards and 3 touchdowns in place of Bryce Young. The Panthers racked up 440 yards of offense, showing a spark they desperately needed. Now, in a game I thought the Raiders were for sure going to win, just didn't happen. They fell to 1-2 and have looked terrible outside of 1 quarter against Baltimore. Their defense couldn't stop the Panthers, and their offense was basically non-existent. And Antonio Pierce, after the game, had already hinted at players in the locker room who were taking plays off and making business decisions. What that will do, I don't know, but I wouldn't want to be in there, and I feel bad for Devontae Adams, for sure. We need to get Devontae out of there. I would say he could come to Dallas, but he's going to get the same treatment here. So how bad are the Browns? Like, you know, week 1 when they lost to the Cowboys, we were like, oh, damn, the Cowboys are kind of nice. And then week 2, they lost again. And then week 3, they lost to the Giants. Deshaun Watson is bad, like bad. The Giants picked up their first dub of the season, beating the Browns 21-15. After falling behind early, Daniel Jones turned things around, finishing with 236 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is crazy to say because I don't think I've ever said that before in my life. And I'll say this, rookie Malik Nabers is that dude. they got them one. They finally got them one since Odell Beckham. Like, legit, he's that good. He had 8 passes for 78 yards, giving the Giants a much-needed weapon on offense. He also had 2 touchdowns. Every time they turned that game on red zone, the ball was going to Malik. Deshaun Watson continues to struggle. That trade continues to look like the worst trade in the history of the NFL. And Cleveland hasn't scored 20 points in a game yet this season. And Watson threw for just 190 yards. They're going to need to go to the drawing board and figure out what they can do to get right at quarterback. Man, the Colts look good as they got their first dub of the season, beating the Bears 21-6. That boy Jonathan Taylor balled out with 93 yards rushing, while Anthony Richardson struggled and threw 2 interceptions. But overall, their offense looks sharp when they can run the ball. They need to continue to run the ball well to open up that play action and deep pass. Now for the Bears, I know most people are going to put blame on Caleb Williams. Everyone's going to blame the quarterback. That's just how it goes in the NFL. But this was not his fault this week. We might have to do another video on this because the coaching in Chicago is blasphemy. I mean, 4th and 1 play on the goal line, and you call an option where the running back is lined up 9 yards behind the line of scrimmage. It's unreal. It's unreal. But at least for the Bears, Rome Odunze was a bright spot. He broke out catching 6 passes for 112 yards and a touchdown. But the problem lies within Chicago's offensive line. It's a disaster. They allowed 7 sacks last week and only managed 63 yards rushing this week. They need to figure out what they can do to patch this lineup, if it can even be done. Now let's go back to what seems like forever ago, the Jets and Patriots on Thursday night. But Aaron Rodgers looked to be that guy again, throwing for 281 yards and 2 tutties. This is the best version of Aaron Rodgers I've seen since his Achilles injury last year. And if he can stay healthy, the Jets could be real contenders in the AFC this year. And another surprising bright spot for the Jets is defensive lineman Will McDonald. He's had 5.5 sacks through 3 games this season, really helping that defense maintain until Hassan Reddick can come in. But for the Patriots, it's almost like the same shit, different year scenario. Jacoby Brissett struggled, and it really might be time to bring Drake May in to see what he can do with this offense. I don't know what they're going to do. There's no Bill B back there. There's no Josh McDaniels back there. Mayo gonna have to figure something out. And that's our week 3 recap. Let's go. What was your favorite game of the week? I'll have to say this. The Niners and the Rams still is one of my favorite ones because of that comeback. But let me know in the comments which was your favorite game, favorite plays. And don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell for more NFL breakdowns and NFL stories in the future. Until next time, I love y'all. I miss y'all. Come back for the next vid.